chapter 5, text number 30. And this verse says, Rishabhadeva began to tour through cities, villages, mines, countrysides, valleys, gardens, military camps, cow pens, the homes of cowherdmen, transient hotels, hills, forests, and hermitages. Wherever he traveled, all bad elements surrounded him, just as flies surround the body of an elephant coming from a forest. He was always being threatened, beaten, urinated upon, and spat upon. Sometimes people threw stones, stool, and dust at him, and sometimes people passed foul air before him. Thus, people called him many bad names and gave him a great deal of trouble. But he did not care about this, for he understood that the body is simply meant for such an end. He was situated on the spiritual platform, and being in his spiritual glory, he did not care for all these material insults. In other words, he completely understood that matter and spirit are separate, and he had no bodily conception. Thus, without being angry at anyone, he walked through the whole world alone. Very exceptional person. Just imagine walking down the street and people throwing stool on you and treating you so badly. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Narottamadatta Thakur says, Deha smriti dahi yara, samsara bandhana kahantara. When a person fully realizes that the material body and world are temporary, he is not concerned with pain and pleasures of the body. As Sri Krishna advises in Bhagavad Gita 2.14, Matra sparsas dukonteya sitosna sukadupadaha agama payano nityastam statikshasva bharata. O son of Kunti, the non-permanent appearance of happiness and distress, and their disappearance in due course, are like the appearance and disappearance of winter and summer seasons. They arise from sense perception, O Skayanaparata, and one must learn to tolerate them without being disturbed. As far as Rishabhadeva is concerned, it has already been explained. Idam sariram mama durvibhavyam. He did not at all possess a material body, and therefore he was tolerant of all trouble offered to him by the bad elements in society. Consequently, he could tolerate people throwing stool and dust upon him and beating him. His body was transcendental and consequently did not at all suffer pain. He was always situated in a spiritual bliss in Bhagavad Gita 18.61. Okay, text. This Ishvara Sarvabhutanam heard they say Rajunatistiti Pranayam Sarvabhutani Yantra Rudrani Maya. The Supreme Lord is situated in everyone's heart, O Arjuna, and is directing the wanderings of all living entities who are seated as on a machine made of the material energy. Since the Lord is situated in everyone's heart, he is in the heart of hogs and dogs also. If hogs and dogs in their material bodies live in filthy places, one should not think that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, in his Paramatma feature, also lives in a filthy place. Yeah. Although Lord Rishabhadev was maltreated by the bad elements of the world, he was not at all affected. Therefore, it is stated here, Swa Mahima Avasthan Nena. He was situated in his own glory. He was never saddened due to being insulted in the many ways described above. Wow, he's completely tolerant of all kinds of difficult situations. Text 31. Lord Rishabhadeva's hands, feet, and chest were very long. His shoulders, face, and limbs were all very delicate and symmetrically proportional. His mouth was beautifully decorated with his natural smile, and he appeared all the more lovely with his reddish eyes spread wide like the petals of a newly grown lotus flower covered with dew in the early morning. The irises of his eyes were so pleasing that they removed all the troubles of everyone who saw him. His forehead, ears, neck, nose, and all his other features were very beautiful. His gentle smile always made his face beautiful, so much so that he even attracted the hearts of married women. Whoa, have to be careful. It was as though they had been pierced by arrows of Cupid. About his head was an abundance of curly, matted brown hair. His hair was disheveled because his body was dirty and not taken care of. He appeared as if he were haunted by a ghost. Whoa.
Hmm.
Purport. Although Lord Rishabhadeva's body was very much neglected, his transcendental features were so attractive that even married men were attracted to him. His beauty and dirtiness combined to make his beautiful body appear as though it were haunted by a ghost. Text 32. When Lord Rishabhadeva saw that the general populace was very antagonistic to his execution of mystic yoga, he accepted the behavior of a python in order to counteract their opposition. So you gotta watch out. Thus he stayed in one place and lay down. While lying down, he ate and drank, and he passed stool and urine and rolled in it. Uh, you don't want to invite him to your party. Indeed, he smeared his whole body with his own stool and urine so that opposing elements might not come and disturb him. He was really renounced, let's put it like that. According to one's destiny, one enjoys allotted happiness and distress, even though one keeps himself in one place. This is the injunction of the Shastras. When one is spiritually situated, he may stay in one place, and all his necessities will be supplied by the arrangement of the supreme controller, unless one is a creature. there is no need to travel all over the world. A person can stay in one place and execute devotional service suitably according to time and circumstance. When Rishabhadev saw that he was simply being disturbed by traveling throughout the world, he decided to lie down in one place like a python. Thus, he ate, drank, and he passed stool and urine and smeared this and his body with them so that people would not disturb him. Well, that is amazing. Such a pure devotee uh, and engaging in, putting and smearing his body with stool, his own stool.
I mean, in this case, he is the Lord himself, right? It's not even Lord Rishabhadev. Is not even just devotee. He is the Lord himself, actually.
Yeah, but very hard for mundane people to realize that he's such a exalted devotee. Therefore, they would throw stool and urine at him. That means he's completely renounced. Because Lord Rishabhadeva remained in that condition, the public did not disturb him, but no bad aroma emanated from his stool and urine. Okay, now we're getting someplace. Quite the contrary. His stool and urine were so aromatic that they filled 80 miles of the countryside with a pleasant fragrance. Now this is the real nitty gritty.
That's the difference between the Lord and.
Yeah. Now you have a litmus test. You start smelling someone to see. They might look really bad, but they might smell very nicely without using perfume. From this, we can certainly assume that Lord Rishabhadeva was transcendently blissful. His stool and urine were so completely different from material stool and urine that they were aromatic. Okay, now that's a litmus test. You can test a person to see what their stool and urine smells like. If it's like roses, you know that they are a pure devotee. Even in the material world, cow dung is accepted as purified and antiseptic. A person can keep stacks of cow dung in one place, and it will not create a bad odor to disturb anyone. We can take it for granted that in the spiritual world, stool and urine are also pleasantly scented. Indeed, the entire atmosphere became very pleasant due to Lord Rishabhadeva's stool and urine. Yay. That is the litmus test. Text 34. In this way, Lord Rishabhadeva followed the behavior of cows, deer, and crows. Sometimes he moved or walked, and sometimes he sat down in one place. Sometimes he lay down, behaving exactly like cows, deer, and crows. In that way, he ate, drank, passed stool and urine, and cheated the people in this way. All right. Well, I guess the word cheated in this context means fooled them. Not that he was, cheating their money. He fooled them to thinking that he was not a true devotee.
Yeah.
Being the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Rishabhadeva possessed a transcendental spiritual body. Since the general public could not appreciate his behavior and mystic yoga practice, They began to disturb him. To cheat them, he behaved like crows, cows, and deer. Text 35. O King Parikshit, just to show all the yogis the mystic process, Lord Rishabhadeva, the partial expansion of Lord Krishna, performed wonderful activities. Actually, he was the master of liberation and was fully absorbed in transcendental bliss, which increased 1,000-fold. Lord Krishna, Vasudeva, the son of Vasudeva, Vasudeva, the son of Vasudeva, is the original source of Lord Rishabhadeva. There is no difference in their constitution, and consequently, Lord Rishabhadeva awakened the loving symptoms of crying, laughing, and shivering. He was always absorbed in transcendental love. Due to this, all mystic powers automatically approach him, such as the ability to travel in outer space at the speed of mind, to appear and disappear, to enter the bodies of others, and to see things far, far away. Although he could do all this, he did not exercise these powers. All right, so if he exercised those powers, then he would be understood to be like a magician or a genuine, let's say, mystic yogi. But he was not interested of getting fame and and having people always following him around. Purport. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya 19:149, it is said, Krishna Bhakta Kish Niskama Ateva Shanta Bhukti Mukti Siddhikami Sakali Asana. The word Santa means completely peaceful, unless all one's desires are fulfilled. One cannot be peaceful. Everyone is trying to fulfill his aspirations and desires, be they material or spiritual. Those in the material world are asanta, without peace, because they have so many desires to fulfill. The pure devotee, however, is without desire. Anya vilasita sunya. A pure devotee is completely free from all kinds of material desires. That doesn't mean he has no desires. He has no material desires. He can have myriad spiritual desire. Karmics, on the other hand, are simply full of desires because they try to enjoy sense gratification. They are not peaceful in this life, nor the next, during the past, present, and future. Similarly, jnanis are always aspiring after liberation and trying to become one with the Supreme. Yogis are aspiring after many siddhis, powers, anima, lahima, bhakti, etc. However, a devotee is not at all interested in these things because he is fully dependent on the mercy of Krishna. Now, that's a wonderful statement right there. That really is the ultimate, let's say, way to recognize a devotee. Krishna is Yogeshwara, the possessor of all mystic powers of siddhis, and he is Atmarama, fully self-satisfied. The yoga siddhis are described in this verse. One can fly in outer space without the aid of a machine. and he can travel at the speed of mind. Well, you mean he doesn't have to go to a, he doesn't have to have uh, it's not like a car where you have to have gasoline to have the power to go around many places. He had his transcendental body. This means that as soon as the yogi desires to go somewhere within this universe or even beyond this universe, he can do so immediately. One cannot estimate the speed of mind, for within a second, the mind can go many millions of miles. Sometimes yogis enter into the bodies of other people and act as they desire when their bodies are not working properly. When the body becomes old, a perfect yogi can find a young, able body. Giving up his old body, the yogi can enter into the young body and act as he pleases. Being a plenary expansion of Lord Vasudeva, Lord Rishabhadeva possessed all these mystic yoga powers. But, that's a big, big but, he was satisfied with his devotional love of Krishna, which was evinced by the ecstatic symptoms such as crying, laughing, and shivering. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the fifth canto, fifth chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam entitled Lord Rishabhadeva's Teachings to His Sons. Okay, so chapter 6. The activities of Lord Rishabhadeva. This chapter tells how Lord Rishabhadeva left his body. He was not attached to his body even when it was being burned up in a forest fire. When the seed of fruitive activity is burned by the fire of knowledge, the spiritual properties and mystic powers are automatically manifest. Let me read that again. When the seed of fruitive activity is burned by the fire of knowledge, the spiritual properties and mystic powers are automatically manifest. It's a big statement.
Mhm.
Yet, Bhakti Yoga is not affected by these mystic powers. An ordinary yogi is captivated by mystic powers and his progress checked. Therefore, a perfect yogi does not welcome them. Because the mind is restless and undependent, it must remain always under control. Even the mind of the advanced yogi, Sobari, even the mind of the advanced yogi, Sobari. Sobari was meditating underwater for an extreme long time. Even the mind of the advanced yogi, Sobari, created such a disturbance that he lost his yogic mystic powers. Due to a restless mind, even a very advanced yogi can fall down. The mind is so restless that it induces even a perfect yogi to be controlled by the senses. Therefore, Lord Rishabhadeva, for the instruction of all yogis, showed the process of quitting the body. While traveling in South India through the provinces of Karnataka, Konka, Venka, and Kutaka, Lord Rishabhadeva arrived in the neighborhood of Kuta Kachala. Suddenly, there was a forest fire that burned the forest and lowered Rishabhadeva's body to ashes. The pastime of Lord Rishabhadeva, as a liberated soul, were known by the king of Konka, Venka, and Kutaka. This king's name was Arhat. He later became captivated by the illusory energy, and in this condition, he set forth the basic principles of Jainism. Lord Rishabhadeva set forth the principles of religion that can free one from material bondage, and he put an end to all kinds of atheistic activities. On this earth, the place known as Bharata Varsha was a very pious land because the Supreme Lord appeared there when he wanted to incarnate. And this is very interesting. There's some very interesting points here. Uh, there are today people who are Jains, and they are sort of like the modern version of the uh, uh, yeah. So it says that he later became captivated by the illusory energy, and in this condition, he set forth the basic principles of Jainism. Now, there are Jains today, there's plenty of them. And they're not pure devotees, but they perform a lot of tapasya, or at least they're supposed to. And they will do a lot of uh, what you would call fasting. That's their big thing. Fasting.
Fasting, and they wear.
Huh? Oh yeah. Also covering their nose and mouth and so forth, so that they don't breathe in any bugs. All right. And they're very careful, even though when they walk or talk, they don't want to like make wild arm movements or anything like that because they're afraid that they might kill insects. They're very, very, let's say, careful about not killing anything. And they do a lot of tapasya. The real strict change should be fasting almost all the time. And of course, nowadays they're not that serious. I know many Jains, they're nice people, very nice people. But they usually have, well, there are some Jains that are very, very fanatical, but most of them just do some fasting, more than normal people fast. Right? Lord Rishabhadev neglected all the mystic powers for which the so-called yogis anchor. Because of the beauty and devotional service, devotees are not at all interested in so-called mystic powers. The master of all yogic power, Lord Krishna, can exhibit all powers on behalf of his devotees. Devotional service is more valuable than yogic mystic powers. Okay, that's our main takeaway right there. Devotional service is more valuable than yogic mystic powers. Devotees who are sometimes misled aspire for liberation and mystic powers. The Supreme Lord gives these devotees whatever they desire, but they cannot attain the most important function of devotional service. Devotional service to the Lord is guaranteed for those who do not desire liberation and mystic powers. Well, if you desire liberation and mystic powers, you are not eligible for going back to Godhead because you still have material desires. Very simple. It's not, you don't have to be what we call a genius to understand this. The whole idea of spiritual life is not to have material desires. If you want to be a big yogi and perform miracles, those are desires, material desires. Okay, so now we are where? That's text number 1. King Parikshit asked Sukadeva, my dear Lord, for those who are completely pure in heart, knowledge is attained by the practice of bhakti yoga. It doesn't say knowledge is attained by studying and memorizing and passing tests. Knowledge is attained by the practice of bhakti yoga, and attachment for fruitive activity is completely burned to ashes. For such people, the powers of mystic yoga automatically arise. They do not cause distress. Why then did Rishabhadeva neglect them? Purport. All right, that's a good question. Let's see what the answer is. A pure devotee is constantly engaged in the service of the Supreme Personality of God. Whatever is necessary for the discharge of devotional service is automatically attained, though it may appear to be the result of mystic yoga power. Sometimes a yogi displays a little yogic power by manufacturing gold. It's very dangerous to do that. You have to swallow some poisonous substances, and then the body manufactures gold. Don't try it. Sometimes a yogi displays a little yogic power by manufacturing gold. A little quantity of gold captivates foolish people, and thus the yogi gets many followers who are willing to accept such a tiny person as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Such a yogi may also advertise himself as Bhagavan. However, a devotee does not have to exhibit such magical wonders. Without practicing the mystic yogi process, he achieves even greater opulence all over the world. Well, yeah, what Prabhupada did, which was spread Krishna consciousness all over the world, that's greater, what you would call mystic power than producing a little bit of basma. Basma means the yogis, they can produce some charcoal like powder, and if you get some of that, your life becomes a little more easy. But it's a material thing; it's not spiritual. Under the circumstances, Lord Rishabhadeva refused to manifest mystic yogic perfections, and Maharaja Parikshit asked why he did not accept them. Very good question. Since for a devotee, they are not at all disturbing. In other words, they won't use those powers to disturb society. A devotee is never distressed or satisfied by material objects. His concern is how to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If By the grace of the Supreme Lord, a devotee achieves extraordinary opulence. He utilizes the opportunity for the Lord's service. He is not disturbed by the opulence. Okay, so now that is a major statement. That is the way you can recognize if someone is a genuine devotee. They are not disturbed by their opulence. They use their opulence. How is that? They use their opulence in the service of Krishna. So if they can make $1 million in the daytime, they spend it before night is over.
Correct.
In the service of Krishna. So they're not worried about it because they know that money is not the ultimate goal of life, but it can be used in Krishna consciousness. So they're not controlled by money and sense gratification because they're using money and their senses in the service of Krishna. Now, the Mayavadis, they don't want to use money and they don't want to use their senses in devotional service. They want to deny the use of money and deny the use of their senses. That's the major difference between the Mayavadis and the devotees. If you go up to a yogi and you say, here's $10,000, he'll say, I don't want it. Well, I mean, the bogey yogi will say, give it to me right away. the Mayavadi yogi who's really into this meditation thing will reject it. And he'll say, no, I never touch money, but you can give it to my servant. Okay, well, text number 2. Shiva Sukadev Goswami replied, my dear king, you have spoken correctly. However, after capturing animals, a cunning hunter does not put faith in them, for they might run away. Similarly, those who are advanced in spiritual life do not put faith in the mind. Indeed, they always remain vigilant and watch the mind's action. Whoa, that is a big statement. Yeah, because the mind can be fickle. 1 minute it's talking about Krishna, and the next minute is running after women. One time, long time ago, I was at this type of what do you call it? A yogi, uh, a yogi program, and there were a lot of yogis there doing different exercises, twisting their bodies like a pretzel, and everyone was, very excited to see them, and so forth. So I was not trying to, show off my body or anything like that. I was trying to distribute books to the people at that festival. And there was one yogi that came up to me, and when we started to talk, talking about Prabhupada and Krishna consciousness. And, he was listening to me. All of a sudden, a very pretty girl started walking past us, right? And by the way, I had a banana in my hand. I was going to eat it. But because I got into a discussion with him, I was just holding it in my hand. As soon as he saw the girl, he grabbed the banana in my hand and gave it to the girl and started talking to her, right? he did one of these things where she's walking past us, and he turns his back to me, grabs the banana from my hand, and he gives it to the girl and starts talking to her and stops talking to me. And then after there's hello, hello, goodbye, goodbye, she goes past, and then he looks at me again and starts talking to me. And right away I said to him, "Why did you take my banana?" He said, "Oh, you did not see Krishna." I said, "What? What do you mean I did not see Krishna?" He said, "That girl that walked past us was Krishna himself." I said, "I don't think so." He said, "That's because you have not been trained properly by your guru." I said, "That has nothing to do with uh, training by my guru. My guru has trained me not to be attracted by yogis, fake yogis like you." You know. Then he got really upset when I said that, and I said, but I want my banana back. He said, "I have given it to the I have given it to God." I said, "You didn't give it to God. You gave it to that girl because you were attracted by her." He said, "No, no, no." He said, "You don't understand. Your guru has not taught you properly." So you have to somehow or other tolerate all this nonsense in this world. Anyway, I never got my banana back. Okay, so uh, text number 2, purport. In Bhagavad Gita 18th, Lord Krishna says, "Yajna dana tapa karma na yajyam karyam evatat. Yajno dana tapas chaiva pavanani manisinam." Acts of sacrifice, charity, and penance are not to be given up by, but should be performed. Indeed, sacrifice, charity, and penance purify even the great souls. Even one who has renounced the world and has taken sannyasa should not renounce chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Renunciation does not mean that one has to renounce Sankirtan Yajna. Similarly, one should not renounce charity or tapasya. The yogi system for control of the mind and senses must be strictly followed. Lord Vrishabhadeva showed how severe types of tapasya could be performed, and he set an example for all others. But his example was extremely severe tapasya. All the learned scholars have given their opinion. The mind is by nature very restless. Well, that's true. And one should not make friends with it. Yeah, in fact, Bhakti Vinod Thakur said, in the morning when you wake up, you get a shoe and beat your head with it. And in the evening before you go to sleep, you do it also. So you don't get puffed up. If we place full confidence in the mind, it may cheat us at any moment. See, that's how dangerous the mind is. Even Lord Shiva became agitated upon seeing any form of Lord Krishna. And Sobari Muni also fell down from the mature stage of yogic perfection. Now, Sobari is very interesting. He was meditating underwater for a long, long time. He was so, so deep into meditation underwater that he had barnacles all over his body. You know what a barnacle is? It's some kind of a living entity that connects
speaks to
things.
the whales and all they have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and they sort of like suck your blood and I think. So he was manifesting. He was fasting so much that he had barnacles all over his body. But at one point, he broke his severe meditation and then wanted to get married. Not to one woman, but to many women, after being so renounced. But of course, he had to get rid of all the barnacles and make his body very nice. But he had this yogic power, he could do that. And he got married not just to one woman, he got married to many women. So we can see how uh, what you would call cheating type of yogi engages in sometimes very, very severe tapasya. But then again, they fall down easily. So therefore, we should follow Krishna consciousness, which is balanced. It's not fanatical. It's very balanced. We don't engage in sense gratification, but we use the senses to serve Krishna. So we're still using the senses, whereas the yogi will deny the sense and engage in severe types of tapasya. Okay, so in purport it says the first business of one trying to advance in spiritual life is to control the mind and senses. As Sri Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 15.7, Mamayavam so jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana manaksastan indriyani prakutisnani karshati. Although those living entities are part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, and are therefore in a transcendental position. It's a very good statement. They are still suffering in this material world and struggling for existence due to the mind and the senses. To get out of this false struggle for existence. Now, see, that's a very nice statement. The false struggle for existence. Why is it false? Because they're struggling for sense gratification, which is false, which is illusory. They're trying to achieve things that are temporary, not eternal, and become happy in the material world. One has to control the mind and senses and be detached from material conditions. One should never neglect austerities and penances. Now, austerities are denying sense gratification of the body, and penances are severe types of denying the body sense gratification due to having made mistakes in the past. One should always perform them. Lord Rishabhadeva personally showed us how to do this. In the Srimad Bhagavatam 9.19.17, it is specifically stated, excuse me, Matra sarva swastra duhitra vam navik katasano lavet malavan indriya gramo vidvansam apikarsati. A grihasta, vanaprastha, sannyasi, and brahmachari should be very careful when associating with women. Here it is. One is forbidden to sit down in a solitary place, even with one's mother, sister, or daughter. In our Krishna consciousness, our society, especially in Western country, not one second, I missed the line. In our Krishna consciousness movement, it has been very difficult to disassociate ourselves from women in our society, especially in Western countries. We are therefore sometimes criticized, but nonetheless, we are trying to give everyone a chance to chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra and thus advance spiritually. If we stick to the principle of chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra offenselessly, then by the grace of Srila Haridasa Thakur, we may be saved from the allurement of women. I like that. We may be saved. We have to be very, very vigilant in our chanting. However, if we are not very strict in chanting the Hare Krishna Maha, we may at any time fall victim to it. That has happened over and over again in the history of the world. Not only the world, like the whole world, but even the world of Krishna consciousness. In other words, we have to be vigilant every day to strictly follow the rules and regulations and not have any hiatus or stoppage of strict following. As soon as there's a little bit of slack, one can fall down easily. That's why it says, Sri Haridas Thakur. It says, we are therefore sometimes criticized, but nonetheless, we are trying to give everyone a chance to chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra and thus advance spiritually. Yeah, so therefore, we don't deny women from being devotees. If we stick to the principle of chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra offenselessly, then by the grace of Sri Haridas Thakur, who was chanting 20, 20, let's say, in other words, he was chanting almost every moment of his life. In other words, 25 and a half hours 23. A day.
23
23
and a half
hours a day. So, then by the grace of Haridas Thakur, we may be saved from the allurement of women. However, if we are not very strict in chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, we may at any time fall victim to women.
Very.
That doesn't mean that women are bad. It just means that we have to understand how to deal with material nature. The material nature is full of pitfalls. But if we strictly follow the rules and regulations of Krishna consciousness, we will not be attracted by mundane things. We may learn how to use mundane things in the service of Krishna. That's different, right? But we will not become a slave of mundane behavior and mundane people and mundane activities, because we want to use everything in the service of Krishna. Okay. Text number 4.
One question mark.
Huh? Yeah. Right.
So Maharaj, in the previous text, it says in the last few lines,
Even Lord Shiva.
it says similarly, one should not renounce charity or tapasya. So what is a charity for a devotee? Like devotee is doing austerity and penances. So what are the examples of charity for a devotee?
Well, when we go on Sankirtan, what do? We're giving free burritos. We are sometimes giving free books. We are inviting people to come to the temple, to the festivals, where everything is free. So we're not businessmen and we're not karmis. We are givers. We're giving people the opportunity to be Krishna conscious. We're not holding Krishna consciousness for our own selfish purposes. Spreading without asking people, give me money, right? We don't care. We get money, we don't get money. We are always trying to help people to be Krishna conscious. That is our tapasya. We don't have to go into a dark cave and meditate. We'll go out into the greater world and try to spread Krishna consciousness. Right? The Mayavadi will go to a secluded place and meditate for its own personal, let's say, benefit. But the devotee will not stay in a cave or in a lonely place, but will go out into the public arena and try to spread Krishna consciousness. That's the major difference between a Krishna conscious devotee and a Mayavadi. The Mayavadi will avoid going around to festivals and other places like that and trying to spread Krishna consciousness, trying to teach people Krishna consciousness. The Mayavadi will stay in a lonely place and meditate. But the devotee, our meditation is spreading Krishna consciousness to everyone, or everyone who is willing to listen. That's the major difference between devotees and Mayavadis. Okay. So here it says, Prabhupada says, in our Krishna consciousness movement, it has been very difficult to disassociate ourselves from women in our society, especially in Western countries. We are therefore sometimes criticized, but nonetheless, we are trying to give everyone a chance to chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra and thus advance spiritually. If we stick to the principle of chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra offensively, then, by the grace of Srila Haridas Thakura, I like that. Haridas Thakura is in our life. It's either real, let's say, part of our life, because his example is exemplary in chanting Hare Krishna. We may be saved from the allurement of women. However, if we are not very strict in chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, we may at any time fall with the victim to women. There you go. And it has happened many times. The devotees have fallen victim to women. But it is not impossible to avoid falling victim to women if we follow Krishna consciousness correctly. Always chanting, dancing, feasting, and preaching. All right. So I think we're almost finished. We'll do one more. Text number 4. An unchaste woman is very easily carried away by paramours, meaning men that want to have sex with them, with the women. And it sometimes happens that her husband is violently killed by her paramours. The paramours are illicit persons who engage in sex with somebody else's wife or young girls or whatever. If the yogi gives his money away, paramours, someone doesn't fall in love with. If the yogi gives his mind a chance and does not restrain it, his mind will give facility to enemies like lust, anger, and greed, and they will doubtlessly kill the yogi. Wow, there it is. That's the next book on my it's going to be printed soon. That I've written, Lust, Anger, and Greed. Purport. In this verse, the word kumskali refers to a woman who is easily carried away by men. Such a woman is never to be trusted. Unfortunately, in the present age, women are never controlled according to the directions of the Shastra. Women are never to be given freedom. Whoa. Yeah. No more no more walking around half naked in public by women. They have these, very, very scant clothing on that's showing most of their naked body. That is a very, very let's say regular thing nowadays.
Mhm.
That's why the Muslims they will insist. I mean, the strict Muslims absolutely force their women to put a full covering of their whole body. The only thing you can see is their eyes. That's it. You don't see anything else. You just see the cloak. All it goes from their head right down to their feet, and when it's passing through the eyes, some holes are made in the eyes. That's it. We don't do that in Krishna consciousness. Why? Because if we're practicing Krishna consciousness properly, uh, we're not attracted by the body of women. We see everyone, whether men or women, as potential devotees. We're not seeing them for sense gratification. It all depends on how you see things. If you see a mother, you don't see a possibility of having sex with your mother. You see a person that you have to protect and have full, let's say, respect for. Well, that should not only be for your mother, it should be for all women and all men also. The devotee, the way the devotee sees things, the real devotee, is different than how the materialistic people see things. They're always enamored by the naked body of women. They'll pay money. It's like one time we were driving with Prabhupada, and as we were driving, Prabhupada was looking out the window of the car, and he saw a long line of men, and most of them were older men, waiting to get into this uh, building. Right? And he said, "What is this?" And we said, "Oh, Prabhupada, this is a nightclub." And the men are waiting in night and to get into the nightclub. You have to pay money to get in, like $50 or $100, and you see naked women. And he said, just see. They can see their wife's naked body for free, but they're spending 50, 100 or more dollars just to see the naked body of other women. Yep, that is the sad situation of the world today. Okay, when a child, a woman, must be strictly controlled. In other words, when a child, a woman, must strictly uh, must be strictly controlled by her father. When she is young, she must be strictly controlled by her husband. And when she is old, she must be controlled by her elderlies. If she is given independence and allowed to mingle unrestrictedly with men, she will be spoiled. A spoiled woman, being manipulated by paramours, might even kill her husband. This example is given here because a yogi desiring to get free from material conditions must always keep his mind under control. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur used to say that in the morning, here it is, I said this just in the morning, our first business should be to beat the mind with shoes 100 times. And before going to bed, to beat the mind 100 times with a broomstick. Well, in the morning you beat the mind with shoes, and in the evening you beat the mind with the broomstick. In this way, one's mind can be kept under control. Well, we don't beat the mind with the stick, but we do keep the mind engaged by chanting Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. That is the way we beat the mind. An uncontrolled mind and an unchaste wife are the same. An unchaste wife can kill her husband at any time, and an uncontrolled mind, followed by lust, anger, greed, madness, envy, and illusion, can certainly kill the yogi. When the yogi is controlled by the mind, he falls down into the material condition. One should be very careful of the mind, just as a husband should be very careful of an unchaste wife. Yeah, and there's the example. The example is given that when a woman is dancing with her husband, usually sometimes they rest their head on the shoulder of their husband. But while she is dancing with her husband, she is looking at other men. And even though she's looking at other men, she's thinking of other men also. She's looking at men and she's also thinking of other men. So we'll find that statement. So therefore, women must be controlled and protected, not controlled, but protected by their father and mother, or by their wife and their children, etc. Otherwise, they can be tricked by lusty men and become used for sex. It happens a lot, unfortunately, because women are not properly protected in the society today. Okay, I think we're finished for today. We're never finished, actually. It goes on all the time. But are there any questions or comments anyone would like to make? Any questions or comments?
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj.
Haribol Prabhu, thank you.
The Harivilas. One question, Guru Maharaj. And when Lord comes to this planet, he exhibits different leelas, like in this case, Rishabhadev. So his activities after renounce is very, very strict and strange. But then also other stories like Kapila Muni or Prutu Maharaj, when Lord comes as incarnates as them, they exhibit different qualities. What is the takeaway for us? Because we see in the pastimes of Lord exhibiting different activities. From Rishabhadev, what is it that we can take, Guru Maharaj?
Okay. One second. Our takeaway today is Srimad Bhagavatam 9.19.17, which is quoted in Canto 5, Chapter 6, verse number 3. And it says, the first business of one trying to advance in spiritual life is to control the mind and sense. As Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 15:27, Amayavam Sura Jiva Loke Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. Manaksastani Briyani Pakistani Karsa. Although the living entities are part and parcel of the Supreme Lord and are therefore in a transcendental position, they are still suffering in this material world and struggling for existence due to the mind and the senses. To get out of this false struggle, and it is a false struggle for existence, and become happy in the material world, one has to control the mind and senses and be detached from material conditions. One should never neglect austerities and penances. One should always perform them. But what are our austerities in Krishna consciousness? Waking up early in the morning, taking a bath, chanting Hare Krishna, and coming to class, and being active in the class, taking part in the class by asking questions, and also regularly having nice prasadam, also going on Sankirtan, also teaching Krishna consciousness to others. It is all tapasya, our tapasya. The tapasya of the Mayavadi is to go somewhere private, where there's no other persons, and they meditate on the tip of their nose or whatever. But for the devotee, the tapasya is following the principles of Krishna consciousness strictly in order to help others become Krishna conscious and to control their own mind and senses by always focusing on serving Krishna with love and devotion. That is our tapasya. Ultimately, we want to always preach and help others become Krishna conscious. But the Mayavadi does not want to take the risk of teaching others or preaching. The Mayavadi will stay in a lonely place and meditate. If you go to a Mayavadi program, you walk in and it's silent and everyone is meditating. They have their prayer rug, right? And they sit down on it and they meditate for an hour or two. That's nothing. A real Mayavadi should meditate 24 hours a day, right? But today they meditate 1 hour or 2 hours, that's it. And then they, go back to work or talk nonsense. But the real yogi is willing to be in a secluded place and for most of the day and even most of the night meditating. Now, who is going to do that? How many people are actually going to do that? Very few. There are some people doing it, but very few. However, our meditation is chanting Hare Krishna loud enough that other people can hear it also, and dancing and feasting and distributing prasadam and taking part in festivals and hearing lectures by genuine devotees. That is our tapasya. So it's a lot of fun, right? It's not something that is severe abnegation from social uh, uh, society. We don't avoid society. We go into society to help people become Krishna conscious. Whereas the Mayavadi will avoid society for his own salvation. So therefore, he's not interested in taking many people back to Godhead. He's mostly interested in getting himself back to Godhead. Whereas the devotee wants to go back to Godhead with many other people. That's why he's preaching openly to many people throughout his life. Okay, so our takeaway for today. It says, to get out of this false struggle for existence, this false struggle for existence, and become happy in the material world, one has to control the mind and senses and be detached from material conditions. Yeah, that means you might be in difficult situations, but you shouldn't be uh, uh, influenced by it. You should be detached from material conditions. One should never neglect austerities and penances. So, austerity is something you perform to control the mind and senses, and penances are same type of austerities you perform to get rid of sinful activities that you might have performed previously. One should always perform them, and Rishabhadeva personally showed us how to do this. In Srimad Bhagavatam 9.19.17, it is specifically stated, Matra Sasra Duhitra Va, and so forth. A grihastha, vanaprastha, sannyasi, and brahmachari should be very careful when associating with women. One is forbidden to sit down in a solitary place, even with one's mother, sister, or daughter. In our Krishna consciousness movement, it has been very difficult to disassociate ourselves from women in our society, especially in Western countries. We are therefore sometimes criticized, but nonetheless, we are trying to give everyone, that means even women, a chance to chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra and thus advance spiritually. If we stick to the principle of chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra offenselessly, then, by the grace of Srila Haridasa Thakur, we may be saved from the allurement of women. Just like a woman tried to make Haridas Thakur fall down. She was paid. She was a prostitute. She was paid by some man who was envious of Haridas Thakur. So he paid the girl to go and make him fall down. But Haridas Thakur, because he never stopped chanting Hare Krishna, was able to convert that girl who was a prostitute to become a devotee. So that's the secret. Never stop chanting Hare Krishna. He kept telling her, well, you just sit down here and I'll do whatever you want me to do, but I have to finish my rounds first. But his rounds were 23 and a half hours of chanting. And every time she would be sitting there waiting for him to stop chanting, and she'd fall asleep. And then it would be daytime, and she would have to go home again and come back the next day, right? So he never stopped chanting, therefore she was not able to make him fall down. There it is. So now we know that what the real purpose is of chanting. It's to keep your mind focused on Krishna and not the body parts of a woman and not on sense gratification. So if we do that, we won't have any problem. So that's why it says here. However, if we are not very strict in chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, we may at any time fall victim to women. Haribol. That is our takeaway from today. And for women, if women are not very strict in chanting Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, they may be tricked by lusty men to engage in sex. So both ways, the devotee women and devotee men must strictly chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra and not become victims of lusty people. The lusty people will use a child or a woman or a man's body for sense gratification. So to avoid that, we never stop chanting Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. I just wanted to know, will we have any booth today in Derby Day Parade?
Yeah, we do.
Okay, what are the timings, Guru Maharaj, for that booth?
Well, you set the table up. Did you ask the devotees that organize programs?
Okay,
There must be a booth that we have. So you don't have to do
the flyers.
no, you don't have to do the procession. You just have to get your booth ready so that they're all going to come to a place where they're going to have prasadam, they're going to have programs, singing, and all that stuff. So you set your booth up and you wait till they come, and now you can preach to them.
Thank you so much, Guru Maharaj.
So who do you you have to contact the devotees that are organizing the booth. And you should be in that booth and you should be preaching all day long.
There is no notification, that's why I'm asking. I will check. Thank you, Guru Maharaj.
Okay, Hare Krishna. I will be there also.
Thank you. Thank you, Guru Maharaj.
Hare Krishna. Okay, well, we'll stop right there. Our takeaway for today. If we stick to the principle of chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra offenselessly, then, by the grace of Srila Haridasa Thakur, we may be saved from the allurement of women. However, if we are not very strict in chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, we may at any time fall victim to women. And vice versa, at any time, women may fall victim to lusty men. So it goes both ways, it's not only one way. Therefore, the women should be chanting Hare Krishna all the time, and the men should be chanting Hare Krishna all the time. For women, a lusty man is a dangerous person. And for men, a lusty woman is a dangerous person. So we should avoid these dangerous people who are always trying to have sex and exploitation of others. It could be a woman for a man or a man for a woman. Okay, thank you very much, my dear devotees. Be very careful in chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, because if we don't chant nicely every day, Prabhupada says, we may at any time fall victim to women or men. There it is.
Very good.
Hare Krishna. Okay, my dear devotees, have a good day. Chant your rounds very seriously. And have a very nice prasadam. And try to give somebody some prasadam today.
Very good.
Hare so that they will have a taste of Krishna's mercy. Hare Krishna.
Hare